Hello, everybody. Welcome to Married Lifers.
Fucking married lifers.
Babe, but I broke the wheel on my little vanity seat, and I just went to move, and it threw me forward. I almost fell. That's not funny, fucker.
Everybody's all laughing and like, oh shit, that's a real moment.
There's not even nobody on here yet.
They can see you?
Yeah, so they go back and watch it. I was like,
Yeah, see? You're trying to be all cute and then she falls forward.
shut up, babe. You're
Put
so
that on
weird.
Neighborhood Wars.
Neighborhood wars. It's about to be spousal wars. That's what they should start.
America's Funniest Videos.
I'm gonna fuck you up, dude. Who says that?
That's just
Okay.
saying.
So today, guys, we're talking about abuse. Me and my husband got into this subject because he was in one of his classes talking about trauma.
Yeah, it was a trip.
Okay.
I didn't like it.
So explained a little bit what we were talking about. Do you remember?
What?
Do you remember what we were talking about? What brought all this up?
No.
Because you were talking about trauma, and like some people were talking about their trauma and why
Oh
they
yeah,
were.
yeah. Because I was at this class. I was taking this drug treatment class that they got over here, and for some reason, now I'm not saying that it's not true or whatnot, but people, like they teach you about addiction and why you have addiction and stuff, and people been through some traumas in their life, so they get addicted to stuff, and that might be true for some people. But that's not necessarily true for everybody. I don't believe in. It's got nothing to do with me, but anyways, that we had a group, and it was kind of uncomfortable because it's like you got guys talking about, this is,
Things
they got
happen.
touched or stuff or whatever, and I'm just like, okay, but. And then they thought that it was okay and stuff, and I'm like, well, okay, well, if you thought it was okay, then you weren't traumatized by it, so you weren't an alcoholic or a dope fiend because of it. You know what I mean? You're just gay because of it.
But that's the thing I was trying to explain to you. Like, because at that time when it first probably started happening, they didn't realize that it was wrong because they were so young. But you do realize that it's wrong. And when you grow up and that bothers you because it's something that's going to stick with you and bug you, like that's a trauma.
Well, no, I get that, but I'm saying, but if you believed it for practically your whole life that it was something that was okay, then how is it traumatizing that it hurts you and makes you become a drug addict or a dope fiend after the fact or something? I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying I'm trying to understand how that correlates with the other. Like if I learned that you're driving really fast down the road while you're drunk and I'm unseatbelted, which was really fun for me as a kid, right? I thought that was okay. I thought it was fun. I thought it was okay. It was a good thing. You do it every Friday. I love going in the car with you every Friday because we're going to have fun. You're going to drive really fast. And I don't know that that's bad. And then years later, I learned that that's bad. And what happens? I start doing drugs because I found out that what I thought was fun and good is no longer fun and good.
But I think you're taking it to an extreme because with sexual abuse like that, like at the time and being so young at a so young age, you don't know what's going on. Like I think in some point you knew that it was wrong, but an adult's telling you that it wasn't, and you're confused because you're barely mentally growing. You know what I mean? And you kind of have that gut feeling like this isn't right. And even after the first time or second time, like that it's not right, but they're telling you that it's right. So you have that conflicts going on. You know what I mean? And some people will cover it up and be like, oh, I didn't think it was wrong. But if you really sit down and talk to them and start like digging deep into there, they knew it was wrong and it was hurting them, and they didn't know what to say or what to do. And you know what I mean? They got caught into that. And some with long-term abuse, like you've heard of being brainwashed, you know what I mean? To brainwash you into thinking that this is right. And then when you get older and you realize that it was wrong, and you did have these other feelings, like it fucks with you mentally.
Right.
I think that's a part that you're missing on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not saying it's right or wrong or nothing like that. I was just saying I didn't understand it and how one coordinated with the other. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just talking about within my class in itself. You know what I mean? Because I think, like, for me, getting high or drinking, I did it more socially. I like having fun with the fellas and hanging out. Wasn't because somebody touched me or spanked me or yelled at me or didn't play with me or something. It was just, hey man, it was something to do. Let's have fun. So, but I'm just saying for the way the class is teaching you that you got to have some kind of trauma to have to get high or have an addiction or something, which I didn't understand, and I kind of debated against it. You know what I mean?
Maybe we should have named this addiction. Rogelio said hi.
What up, homie? So my love to you and the baby.
She's with him today. I'll send you the pictures.
Hi, Ava.
So that led us into, because I always tell my husband, like, he's different. Like he can do something, and I mean just in general, and then just shut it off. You know what I mean? Like in their aspect, they're talking about drugs, right? And he is one that, did it here and there with the fellas just to hang out. It wasn't no underlying issues. But for most people, and I was telling him, like, they get like a general line, right? To see like where everybody falls, and it's general. It's not specific to people. Hello, Stella. It's not specific to people. So they have like a balanced line, a general line, right? Of um where everybody kind of lands. And for the most part, even on these shows that we watch, you hear a lot of people, because they're trying to get away from their reality. You know what I mean? They're trying to get away from what's going on, and like have that moment of peace. And that's why they get high, and then they get addicted because they keep chasing that high. That's all I know from it. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a counselor, because I've never had that issue as far as that goes. I'm just saying from what I've seen.
I just disagree with some of their philosophies and things. But I mean, again, and I don't know what they see or what they know that I don't know, but that's just how I feel. And it's not like I lived in a bubble or something. I know many people who got addicted to drugs and alcohol. And I took an Alcoholics Anonymous class before, and I read some stuff like it talked about, like, if you let's say if you had blackouts when you drank, then you were alcoholic, or if you did this and this, you were an alcoholic, or you were a drug addict. And so then I understood some of their reasons why they say that. So then I'm like, okay, I didn't drink like everybody else, but when I drank, I blacked out and acted crazy. So maybe I was an alcoholic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in their definition. Because we talked about that before too. Because I never realized that either. Like, to the norm, or what you normally think is like an alcoholic, is somebody that drinks all day, every day.
Yeah.
I don't drink all day, every day, but I did have those days where I explained to you guys before, I was a mess when I was younger. And we would drink, we would go out to the club Wednesday through Sunday. Of course, we were getting fucked up. You know what I mean? But I was getting fucked up a lot of times where I was blacking out. And that's considered an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Rogelio says she just heard her name and it got her attention.
Ava Bella. But yes, but I do understand that some people do cover up their pain, their traumas that they have with alcohol and drugs. You know what I mean? But it's just hard for me to understand or to empathize with certain things. Like, let's say when you were a kid, you were traumatized by something that happened when you were a kid. And then for 30 years of your life was good, or whatever you did. You had nothing wrong in your adult life. All of a sudden, you got into drugs and whatever. Now you're starting to blame it on what happened to you 30 years before you decided to mess up and get on drugs and stuff. Talk about, it was because of the trauma when I was little. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to understand how that happens when your life is all good this way, but yet you didn't ever do nothing like that. You didn't need to soothe the pain away at that time. You know what I mean? But then later on, you had a little fun, and then you got addicted to what you like having fun with, and then now you say it was because of trauma.
But you're still thinking from your point of view of your experience. Like, then I keep telling you, like, you're different from most people.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's hard for me to empathize, to understand it in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know some people like that have used an excuse to that extent of some things. They're like, what?
Are you going to be able to call right back?
Yeah, I'm able to hop back on.
Okay. I love you.
Love you.
So, well, how did that turn into abuse?
Because they were saying because in that group, all these people were saying that they were abused and stuff, and then that's how they became drug addicts or whatever it was that happened. And I was like, well, what about those of us who
Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye. The caller has hung up. Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.
So that's where the discussion started with us, because he's in that class. And, people are talking about their traumas. I ask him, because it's homework and stuff too. So I'll ask him, like, what do you think that your trauma is? Why did you do the things that you did? It led us into the conversation about the way we grew up and the abuse that, we endured as kids. Because, like, I think when we were growing up in our generation, it was different than what it is now. So, like, my mom gets upset with me, I'll just say for an example, because my kids will act, they'll be bad. I don't have bad kids, but they'll do something that's not right. They're not perfect. And my mom will get mad and be like, you should have disciplined them. You should have hit them. Sorry, I'm trying to listen and talk at the same time.
May start the conversation now.
So that led us into talking about, how we grew up and stuff like that. And we started talking about the kids. So I just got into that, babe. So my mom would tell me, like, I should have been, there was sometimes she just flat out said, you should have hit them. Like, you should have hit the kids. And I'm like, no, like, you did that enough for it to last all my kids for a lifetime to us. You know what I mean? She likes to have times where she's like, that never happens. But yes, it did. If you talk to me and my siblings, we all have the same stories. Her family has the same stories. You know what I mean? Like, everybody knew what was going on. So with my kids growing up, I never wanted to do that. I never wanted to put my hands on them. Yes, I cuss. Yes, I yell at them, but I never did that. Like, I think this generation, they're entitled. So I always argue with my kids about that. Like, I give them everything. And I feel like as a parent, you could never win, right? Because if you hit them too much, you grow up like we did. That didn't help anybody. You know what I mean? And I try to tell my mom that, like, what difference between your kids, what difference is there between your kids and my kids? You hit us. One of my siblings doesn't come around us because of that, because of the way we grew up. You know what I mean? She has her own family and keeps her distance. How is that any better?
But whooping your ass doesn't stop nothing. Shoot, I used to get abused when I was a kid, and I ended up in prison. I was in juvenile. I was locked up, and that didn't do nothing. So, you know what I mean? That just made me despise the person even more and be more bitter and hateful toward that person. That was it. That didn't stop me from acting out or nothing like that.
So that's what got us into the whole abuse conversation. Right, babe?
Yeah.
And then, like, I think people can go one way or the other, because, I mean, abuse is a lot. Abuse is when we were growing up, being abused, being hit the way we were hit from our parents. And then I watched my mom grow up. As I was growing up, I watched my mom be in abusive relationships where, she was getting hit by these guys, and I was playing bodyguard and throwing myself on my mom, so I can take it for her. So now that I got older, I refuse to be in a relationship like that. And one of my siblings fell into the same type of cycle with an abusive relationship. You know what I mean? So that leads you down. Like, there's so many different types of abuse. And then in there too, babe, how many guys do you talk to in there grew up being abused, being beat by their parents or by somebody?
There's a lot, and I think it has a lot to do with how they act out too later on. I think because just the way they, some of the things that they do, there's still something that they're missing, so they're just, they kind of act out in their own way, and maybe because I had learned that about trauma in itself, right? So I always thought trauma had to be something that hurts you or something like that, but technically it could be an event. Trauma is basically something that's life changing for you. You know what I mean? So it doesn't necessarily have to hurt you or nothing like that, but it can make you like let's say you go numb to certain situations, or later on down the road something we'll say like me. So like for me, I should get beat on by my mom, and I should take it on my little brother. You know what I mean? I should tear him up, and I'm not talking about no simple little thing. I should beat my brother up, and so maybe the trauma that was on me, you know what I mean, I took it out on him, but I wasn't seeing it that way. You know what I mean? But later on, it has adverse effects for different people. Just like later on, like I was telling you, my earliest memory is when I was still a baby in a diaper, and I remember my dad was throwing a ball at my mom, and she was on the ground crying and stuff, and it was one of them little bouncy balls that girls play jacks with, and the ball kept bouncing back and forth, and the next time that he threw it, it hit her in the forehead, and it flew towards the kitchen. I ran over there to get the ball and bring it to my dad, and he kind of gave me this little look, like he seemed like amused, but just kind of tripped out that I brought it to him. And I always remember my mom; she gave me this hateful, loathing look, but that was like my earliest memory. So later on, as I got older, and he busted her up, I didn't feel no type of way because I always felt that she deserved it. You know what I mean? Because she used to fuck us up, but she was violent toward him, and the way she talked was violent too. So I was always like nonchalant toward it. So I just felt like that was just what it had to be. You know what I mean? She put herself in that situation, so she got what she got coming. So I didn't think nothing about that. You know what I mean? But later on, for me, I wouldn't want my daughter to be in no situation like that. And same thing with disciplining my kids. I don't believe in hitting my kids. I don't believe that teaches them anything. You know what I mean? That's gonna make anything great for them. So it did have an effect on me in different ways for later. You know what I mean? When I got older and stuff like that. But I know it does people differently.
Yep, I would agree with that, because everybody takes things different. Like you said, there's some moments in your life that happen, and it doesn't necessarily need to be bad, but there's moments in your life that happens that sticks with you. You know what I mean? What moments you remember in your life might have been nothing to somebody else, and they totally forgot about it. So it's different for everybody. Like, an abusive moment could have been the moment that sticks with them subconsciously, and they do things because of that. You know what I mean?
Like we go, in here we share the war stories. We talk about how we just laugh it all. But I know it bothers some people. For me, I know for me it bothered me. Going through some of the stuff. But I know females, they go through other different stuff too, because they go through them through their sexual assault stuff, but they go through the different things they do. Because in that group, that's what we were dealing. I was hearing guys saying certain things, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of uncomfortable to hear this part of it. You know what I mean? It's like he should be in another kind of group talking about all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's something you just open up to other men with about, especially a bunch of strangers and in prison.
Maybe some people are not naive, you know what I mean? Maybe he felt okay with the instructor that was there, but not realizing that he's opening himself up to all these other men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it could have been something like that. But you do, like with traumas like that, you do need a safe space to be able to talk about that shit. And in prison, you don't have that at all.
Yeah. I mean, you call them, they try to call them safe spaces, but it's just, for me, it's not something I would talk about in a group like that with these other individuals and prisoners. If it was something I was going through, you know what I mean? Like, especially in the beginning, like this class is, you know, we're like halfway through the class, we're almost done with it, but we haven't really interacted like that, you know what I mean? So it's like, because we had dudes that were really, they were like crying and breaking down and choking up. And I was just like, dang, I'll pass on this right here. This is starting to get weird.
That's because you don't like to open up, babe. Like, you don't. It took me forever to get you to open up and start telling me, like, start talking to me about shit. You know what I mean?
I get that, but this is prison. This is prison. I'm Greyhound in prison. They don't even call me by my first name. I don't know you like that to call me by my first name. You know what I mean? Let alone share some intimate stuff about me or my family or stuff like that. You don't share stuff like that with these people. They're not your friends. They're not somebody who cares about you.
But I'm just saying in general.
If somebody was to die right now that I'm close to and it hurts and I need a hug, there's nobody in here to give you a hug. It doesn't work like that. It's prison. It has nothing to do with being closed off, not wanting to talk to anybody. You know what I mean? That's just not the right people, place, and setting for me anyway.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand the whole prison part of it, the whole prison piece of it, but you were like that with me for a long time. I'm not prison. I'm not a CO. I'm not a warden. I'm your wife. And it took me a long time. I used to always tell him, like, we're not surface level. You're going to open up to me. But I'm just saying it. Oh, my God. You're missing the point, but I love you. Rogelio said the COs traumatized me at Lyman. You probably traumatized them, fool.
You see, there's different types of trauma.
Yeah, and there's different types of abuse. But that's what led us into abuse. Because then we started talking about how we grew up, and it led to the whole prison thing. Because my husband's like, you know, his mom did what she did to him, and he still ended up in prison. And my mom was telling me I should have been hitting my kids. And why? You know what I mean? Like, her kids aren't any better than my kids, and I don't want to traumatize my kids like that.
Plus, I'm about reward and discipline. There's ways of discipline, and there's ways of reward. There's different ways we do things. Just like for example, with our daughter. When our daughter wanted to stay out late, and we had disagreement about our daughter being out late, I'm overprotective of my daughter, and so is my wife. But she didn't want her to be out there late. I didn't have a problem with it because my daughter's really good. She's a good student. She's an athlete. She does all these things, and she's very responsible. And so, therefore, she earned us to trust her to give her that opportunity to do something like that. You know what I mean? Because she did nothing wrong for us to think anything negative that I can't trust my daughter, or she's going to be doing this, and this. The friends she hangs with be doing this, and so she's going to be around this. She's never given us that. So I didn't have a problem with my daughter staying out late with her friends. Even though my wife felt a little bit different, I didn't have a problem with that. But I'm overprotective of my daughter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that because I know how boys are. I used to be one of them, so you know what I mean. I always want to protect her from them kind of things and stuff like that. But my child has always been righteous. She's always been good. She's always done everything she's supposed to. So when it came to her asking for some privileges and us to trust her and stuff, you know what I mean, I didn't have a problem with that. And it's the same thing like with discipline. Let's take away this from her. She does this or whatever. But I never believed in hitting my kids because I was hit, and it didn't do nothing for me but make me more angry and more rebellious.
Okay, so we're going to take it back to your daughter. So he's overprotective in that way. I just want to clear that up. But he doesn't take into the fact of everybody around you. You can be, and most of the poor kids that do get killed in drive-bys or at parties are not the intended targets. They're the good kids that were just there. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he's not taking into. That's not at the time was what he was taking into consideration.
But I am.
No, you're not.
My daughter could be walking down the street. Somebody's in a robbery and gets in a shootout, and bullets are flying.
Okay.
And it can happen. It can happen anywhere.
But my
daughter's staying out, hanging with her friends and stuff. That's not the problem. The problem is going to be wherever the problem is at. My daughter just needs to know what she needs to do and be responsible for herself and how to handle those things. And I tell her that all the time, even when she used to go to school. Since we're out here in Colorado and you got a million school shootings, I tell my daughter, if anything ever happened, don't sit there and duck behind the motherfucking chairs and hang out and I thought I heard a shot and I'm gonna act like I'm right here. No, if you get your ass up out of there. Don't be hanging out or nothing. All these people just be staying and become victims. Fuck that. Get out of there. I tell my daughter how to handle herself. The same thing in these situations. But these things are going to happen. You know what I mean? I know she doesn't have to cause the problem. The problem's with other people, but still, it can happen anywhere. My daughter could be going to work. There's a problem. She could go to the grocery store. There's a problem.
Of course, Dave, but the more you put yourself out there, the higher likely it is for you to fall victim to soming. So why put yourself out there like that? Why put yourself in those situations? Yeah, but you don't need to be. Okay, let's get off that subject because me and you go round and round about it all day, every day. And Rogelio said, I don't open up either. It might be my problem with women. Yes. F it bros before, and you're lucky you didn't finish that, sir. Nah, but better not. Yeah, you better not. He was going to say bros before.
Yeah.
No.
He knows what's up.
You don't get slapped because he might be in a different state, but when he comes out here, I'll remember and I'll slap you. And slap you.
I got my own abuse and traumas.
From your wife? You're such a turd. But I think that's a problem with, because you've been there too, Rogelio, like he gets into this mentality where he has to survival mode, you call it. And it's hard for him to open up, or it's hard for him to take himself out of where he's at when he's talking to me and remember that he has a wife that he's talking to, not a CEO or one of these guys that he has to watch his back with, And it's hard for them. And I think that might be a part of your problem too, Rogelio. Maybe you should try to open up, sir. He said party in Colorado. I told him when he comes back out here, babe, I could show him some other stuff I wasn't able to before.
Yeah, the city.
Yeah.
Show him Koufax.
No.
What like
Van Buren, that's what I'm saying. It's not, we're not doing Van Buren version of Arizona shit. No. So anybody that's from here knows the what Koufax is on in Colorado. And I guess it's the same.
There's trauma down Koufax.
Yeah, I get traumatized every time I drive down that bitch. I don't drive over there.
So do you think it's wrong if we mistreat the people who abuse their kids or killed their kids that come to prison?
I don't.
Do you think they're victims?
I don't. Because they didn't, everybody's self, what is that called? They're about themselves. So they didn't give a shit about those kids that they hurt. You know what I mean? Those kids can't fight back. They can't defend themselves.
Because there was a story out here with that lady where she killed her two of her kids and then stabbed the other one and stabbed herself and tried to act like somebody came in.
Yeah, somebody broke in.
She went to England or something, got caught.
Yeah, they caught her in the hotel room.
Or that one fool where he's where he lined his kids up in the forest and shot one, shot the next one, the other one took off running, and he chased them to go try to kill him.
Where was that at? I did read a little bit about that one. That was a while
I don't know
back.
if that was here in Colorado or that was like in the Midwest somewhere, wherever it was. But it was a trip because you see him on film and he's asking if he get his phone call and stuff. He called his family. Was trying to bail out.
Oh my God. Rogelio said, I was sympathizing with you at the beginning, Rogelio. He said, crazy. What? Rogelio said, crazy because my exes say I don't open up because I've been confined before and that I think I'm too hard to express feelings and open up. F them, I'm a player for life. That's not a way to live, dude. So I think, and I told my husband, we talked about this at visit yesterday. I was like, when he comes home, because he will be home one day. I have faith in God. Right. But when he comes home, it's what did I tell you it was? Non-negotiable.
Gotta go to counseling.
Yes,
or something.
There's a non-negotiable, and that means he has to go to counseling. Through my job, he gets free counseling, right? So he is like, why do I need counseling? You need counseling. You're crazy. Blah, blah, blah. The same shit he likes to tell me. So I'm like, we'll do it together, but we'll do one-on-one and then we'll do couples because he's been locked up so long. Like, he's not just going to, I don't expect him just to come home and be like, let's go to a family party or let's have a bunch of people in our house when he's not used to that shit. You know what I mean? Like, you can't put them in situations like that. So it's a non-negotiable, babe.
But she thinks just because I'm in prison and I've been in prison a long time that I can't function with people. Now, don't get me wrong. Being locked down in the box, you know, in the Supermax all them years, I do like to keep to myself a lot. You know what I mean? But there are just certain situations still I can still interact with people.
Yeah, but you just don't come out from. You don't just come out from prison and then all of a sudden go to a big family function.
Okay, but I just kick back into, like, you know, the corner of the family function and just chop it up with a couple people. I don't need to be hanging out with everybody.
So you don't think you would have, like, anxiety or feel weird that there's so many people around you and talking to you and in a confined space like that?
Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.
So I think you should look into counseling, Rogelio. Like, seriously, like, I'm not talking shit. I really think that's a thing because, I mean, we can all benefit from that. We've all been through trauma and stuff, but I think with being locked up, that, you know, even for whatever time you were in there for, like, you're in survival mode. So you learn how to not open up. You learn how to shut down. You learn how to keep people at arm's length. And you might not realize that you're still doing that with the woman that you love. You know what I mean? And that will destroy a relationship. Period. Because I tell him that all the time. Like, we go back and forth, and when we do have these big fights, he shuts down on me. And he's like, he'll get defensive in the defensive mode, you know what I mean? Where he has to, like, feel like that's why he says he's like a knife. He'll keep sticking and keep jabbing and jabbing because that's all he knows. That's how he's defending himself. But he shouldn't be doing that with me.
Conversation now.
So in prison, I'm around a lot of people. Even when I don't want to be, like, and I said, after all them years being locked down in solitary confinement, I do find that I like to be away from everybody. I don't like to really be around everybody like that. But I find that, you know, it's better to be like, you know me, like, let's say me and you and Rogelio's over here chopping it up in the corner, you know, as opposed to just being out with everybody. And I can interact with people. I just, you know what I mean? I just, you know, pull to my own self. It's just in here. This prison's full of a bunch of funny ass people. You know what I mean? And I don't like being around a whole bunch of funny ass people. If they're not on my level, I don't deal with them like that. So,
okay, but
out there in a family function, you're just there for the function. It's not like it's a forever thing. I mean, and look, and I'm talking now. Even though it's been 25 years now, but I'm talking now, and I don't see the problem. But maybe there might be a problem. I can't say, because being locked down all them years, I didn't think it'd be a problem getting back out and then feeling the way I do. So I can't say. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know, and I think you would have like anxiety and shit, because it's different than being on the yard. Like everything about it would be different. You would be in different clothes. You would be free to walk around and go wherever you want to be. You'd free to talk to people. And there are weirdos in your family. Like, everybody in your family is not the fucking on your level. Like you like to say, I have some fucking weirdos in my family. Some people think I'm the weirdo in my family. Like,
but I don't hang out with that family though.
But I'm just saying, babe, like,
I don't hang out with them.
When you come home, right, and you're around my family, everybody might not be on your level, or you know what I mean. Like, there's a few cousins, like my cousin Cuddy. I'm sure you'd get along with him because you like, you know how he is. But there's weirdos in my family too. You know what I mean? Like, what? And you can't say, well, we're having like, say for example, when we had my grandma's 80th birthday here at my house, everybody came. Family from out of town came. You know what I mean? And I might be the weirdo to some of my family members. You know what I mean? Like,
I can see that.
Fuck you. I'm not the weirdo in my, well, I don't know, maybe some, but I know, like, I'm the bully.
You gotta explain that. Well, then,
I'm the bully in the family, is what I am.
Well, then that's two bullies.
But you get what I'm saying. Like, everybody plays a role. You know what I mean? To one person, you might think they're a weirdo, and to the other person, that's the cream of the crop of the family. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's everybody's perception. Hi, Bonita. How are you?
Okay.
So, well, she just got on and say hi.
Oh.
I'm just randomly saying stuff just to say it. You're such a weirdo. But I guess we should have named this trauma more than abuse, because we were talking more about trauma. But that's how we got into the whole abuse thing, and talking about how it led to different avenues. You know, like my husband ended up in prison and his mom fucked him up when he was little. My mom fucked me up. I was in jail a few times. Like, I'm not perfect. I never put my hands on my kids, and my kids, thank you God, please never let it happen, have been anywhere. Not jail, not, you know, nothing. Not the drunk tank, nothing. I talk shit, but I've never put my hands on my kids. My kids are spoiled ass, entitled brats, is what they are. And your daughter is, she said, good, baby M said, Cuvo.
Tell my said, what's up, Cuvo, send my love.
So, I lost track of what I was saying.
You're talking about trauma.
Oh, and your daughter, too. Your daughter's an entitled brat, and that has a lot to do with you, too, because you're always sticking up for her.
So this is my kid. My kids earned that.
Whatever. If her mama says she's wrong, guess what?
She's right.
See? She's wrong. Sorry, sir. Buenos dias. Saludos, Mr. Hound from DVA. I don't know who that is.
Send my saludos back to you.
So that's how we got into abuse. I honestly think we should have named this trauma, babe, because we were talking more about trauma and stuff. You think?
Yeah, well, yeah. Trauma comes in all shapes and sizes.
But it leads to different stuff. So again, that was conversation was because of the class. What is it called, baby?
You said what?
What is your class called?
Above recovery.
Oh, it's Bouncer, babe.
Oh, what's up, Bounce?
So that's why we got into that, because we started talking about I always talk to him like, what is his homework for that class? What did they discuss in the class? And that's what they were talking about was trauma. What trauma that they experienced and why they think that they got addicted to whatever it was, whether it be alcohol, heroin, whatever it is that they're addicted to, like what trauma led them down that path.
Yeah, because the section we are in the class is dealing with trauma, and because I was telling her about the way the class is structured. At first, they were talking about like religion and stuff, and how has a higher power helped you with this, and this. And I was like, well, what if you're not into any of that and you just change your life or whatever? Like, that ain't got nothing to do with your addictions and stuff. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, well, because the way it's set up, the way the class is set up is if somebody had an addiction and they were stealing their mom's TV to sell it and stabbing everybody in the back and living on the streets, and all they worried about was drugs and stuff like that. That's the kind of addict that like it's centered around. And I don't. So it's hard to sympathize. Don't get me wrong. I know people that have addicts and stuff like that. But I'm just trying to understand what they're talking about, because sometimes I don't get what they're getting at. So then we had this group on Monday, and they were talking about trauma, and then so they were like, to talk about what some of our most recent trauma or our most traumatic something in our life that caused us to get into addiction. Then I started hearing some of the guys. One guy, he's been jacked up since he was a kid. Went through the foster system, stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I can see that. And then somebody else, he went through a sexual assault and stuff, and I can see that too. But part of what he was saying though was saying that something about it. He thought it was okay for years, and he was with it, and now he's gay, and he's fine with that, this and that. So I was like, well, if you were okay with it and it was fine and all that, when did the trauma come? When did it become bad where you felt like now you needed to soothe the ache of going through it? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that it wasn't bad. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying I'm trying to understand that because it doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? And then because just the way that they do stuff in the class, it doesn't add up for me. You know what I mean? Like if I want to hang out with the fellas and he says, hey man, I got a joint, what's up, want to get high? Okay, I'm bored, let's get high. And then I didn't get high because my mom spanked me when I was in second grade. You know what I mean? Yeah, she spanked me, but it had nothing to do with my homie offering me a joint. I didn't even know he was going to offer me a joint. It just happened. You know what I mean? And I got high, but it doesn't mean that I had a traumatic experience that made me do it. And that everybody who gets high has been through a trauma. And I'm not saying that these things don't happen. I'm just saying that it's not for everybody.
Yeah. But I think, and I'm not knocking you either. You always think, because that's the way most people think, like how you got to do the things that you did or where you got there, right? Or why you're in this class. You know why you are in there, what you did to get there. So like everybody only sees it from their perception. You're not going to understand unless you went through that like fully. But when you hear stories and like, even when I was telling you about the programs on TV, it's always to that extreme. Like they're so strung out or they're so addicted that they're doing those things. They're robbing from the people that they love the most to get their next fix. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that you see time and time again. And so it sounds like your class is structured off of that scenario.
Well, because that was like, they had asked us, hey, who in here likes to do meth? You raise your hand. Okay, well, those people who like to do meth and cocaine, they're into the extreme. They like this kind of sports, this. And how many of you like heroin? Okay, well, that means you guys do this. You got the two sides. Those that do this. And I'm like, well, hold on. I like heroin and methamphetamine. So where do I fit in? Because I'm not in the extreme. I don't like rock and roll. And I'm not down here. I'm not into jazz. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm confused because it doesn't make no sense. You know what I mean? And I just did it for fun, not because I got spanked. You know what I mean? And that's the parts where I was saying like it doesn't fit everybody. But I'm not saying that some people don't go through a trauma that they do need to soothe the pain. I get that part. You know what I mean? I understand that.
But you're trying to navigate where you fit into this scenarios that they're putting out there.
You can have done drugs for the very first time, loved how it feels, and then don't want to leave that feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, there's different reasons for it. Bonita said he is playing Pac-Man, but love the way you guys are down to earth and real with it. Trauma from behind the walls are what led up to that. I'm on the Late Show.
But trauma does, I guess, affect everybody one way or another.
And even if you don't think about it, though, babe, like subconsciously, you don't realize some of the things you're doing has a correlation to that trauma. So remember, I told you.
I get that. See, I learned that after the fact because that's what I told you. I thought trauma was if something had hurt me, but technically it didn't hurt me. You know what I mean? I seen something that made me now do things this way, or I've been through something that made me act this way or think this way. You know what I mean? So I understand those parts. Because at first I thought it was just, every time I see clowns, I'm scared because a clown scared me when I was a baby. You know what I mean? That's what I thought trauma was.
Yeah. Because I was telling my husband, like, I went to school for my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And in one of my classes, my psychology teacher, we were talking, like, we built a relationship outside of that. And, I opened up to her about what happened to me when I was younger. And she was explaining to me, like, how some of the things that I did now that I'm older go back to that trauma that happened to me. And, like, I realized it after she broke it down and explained it to me, but during the time of doing the things I was doing, like, I wasn't thinking, oh, that's because this happened to me when I was younger. But it made sense when she broke it down, and like it kind of fucked me up, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? To realize that some of the things I was doing had to do with what I went through. And it's not like constantly on my brain. I'm like sitting there crying about it every day or constantly thinking about it, but it's in the back of my head all the time. Like it's there.
I get that part. But I just don't think some stuff is. I think it's now changed later on. And I could be wrong. I'm not no psychologist or nothing like that. I'm just saying, just dealing with my own stuff. I was abused as a child. You know what I mean? So I've been through some traumas. And at one time, it affected me this way when I was younger. But as I got older and I did this, and this, the trauma that I've been through, where I grew up at, the neglect, the this didn't have nothing to do with that. It was now on me. It was now the decisions that I made as a man that now put me in the situation that I am. You know what I mean?
Okay, but those traumas are a mitigating factor in the backgrounds, which you're not getting.
I get that. At one time they were. At one time when I was younger, and my road was going this way because of what I was going through in my life at that time. I understand. It put me right here. Bam. But there comes a point in time where I'm no longer on that road. I can now move from that road to this next road. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I can't blame what happened on that road on what I'm doing now. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, I could say, hey, this is what I went through with my parents right here. This put me right here on this path. Later on, as a man, when I started making these decisions, I make those as a man. This other person that had nothing to do with it. I don't even talk to my mom. You know what I mean? My dad is dead, so these people are not in my life. They're not a factor in my life. I'm doing my own thing this way, so I now make these decisions, right or wrong, on my own. You know what I mean?
But you don't think that somewhere in the back of your head that the traumas that you went through built the man that you are now, who's making those decisions. Like they all go together, babe. It's like a string to the past, if you will. Like it still follows you through. Like yes, at some point you can't blame it. You can't sit there and be like, oh, this happened to me, so this is why I did everything. No, like at some point you have to take responsibility for your actions, but that is a mitigating factor of why you are who you are now and why you do what you do, because you went through that shit. It's still tied back to then. Yes, you're a man and you're making your own decisions now. But if you think about the decisions you're making and why you think the way you do and why you make those decisions, it has to do with the shit that you were traumatized by. You get what I'm saying? Like that's still a part of it. That's not the whole part of you, but that's still like a little part of you that you carry, whether you want to acknowledge it or not.
Yeah, this is where we'll agree to disagree, because I think that at one point in my time it did, and yes, well, some of the things that you go through in life, they are what chips away at your rough days, is to smooth this out, and does this and this in your life that molds the person you become. But we're always changing. We're always learning. We're always experiencing mistakes. We're always experiencing things in our life. You know what I mean? That we're doing. You know what I mean? This trauma, this experience, this happy thing, this bad thing. You know what I mean? And life goes on, and you just keep going forward. You know what I mean?
Yes. And then it'll always be like that. I'm just saying that trauma from your past is like, you know how we talk about the puzzle? It's like a piece of your puzzle that makes you the whole person that you are. So it's still always with you.
Right. I agree. I agree with you. There's that part of you. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's for everybody. But at some point you have to take responsibility and work through that and figure it out and make better choices.
Yeah.
But that's like, you'll always be a work in progress. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's ever going to always make the correct decision. Like everybody's a work in progress. You're always working to be a better person every day.
Even though I'm a work in progress, I'm pretty.
Don't say it. No, you're not.
You dig?
No, you dig nothing. Shut your ass up. Because it's funny, and I love that we're on here recording this, because he tells me, like, when we argue and stuff, like, for the most part, he's always saying, I'm pretty perfect, I'm right all the time, blah, blah, blah. But when I catch him up on something, or we're arguing and I happen to be right, and he acknowledges that, then he's like, I'm not always perfect, babe. Or he says, I'm not perfect, I'm not always right. But that's what you just said, sir. Make up your mind. Are you perfect? Are you right?
I'm like, man, I'm one of the best. That's all I know. I'm in the best category.
If you could see my face right now, no.
You have 1 minute left.
Are you going to be able to call right back?
On this one, I don't think so. I think there's one before me.
Okay, well, say goodbye, because I have to wrap it up. I got to start getting ready for work.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Be tuned here soon. I'm going to be doing my thing. So I'll get at you, Baby M. I'll get at you, Raj. I'll get at you, Bouncer. I'll get at everybody, and we'll talk about it. Take care.
I love you.
Love you.
So I'll close this out when the phone hangs up. So I'm going to rename this to trauma. Because we talked a little bit on abuse, but it was mostly about the trauma. But when we talked that day, it led into abuse, and we got into that whole ass conversation about abuse. That's why we named it that. But we'll look at it again. I love you.
Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.
So we're going to go ahead and try to do his episode this coming Wednesday. I'll send out a notification and text everybody that I have numbers for that I've been texting to let you know we're going to be on. But this Wednesday, hopefully, if everything works out good with the phones and stuff, I know everybody's, a lot of you guys are in Arizona. We're in Colorado. Right now, the weather is so bad here. Like, it's so freezing cold. Yesterday, driving to visit, I was at -13. Like, I thought my car was going to break. It was bad yesterday. It's supposed to be like this until Tuesday, so it's affecting the phones. The phone stopped working for him yesterday at 6. So if everything works out, on Wednesday evening, we're going to do his very first show. I mean, it's going to be on Married Lifers, but it's going to be about him. And so if you guys have any questions that you want to start out with him, he's going to talk about his life, about being from Arizona. You know, I think he'll touch on the Mexican Mafia stuff and Duba Villa stuff. Again, you guys got to keep in mind, these calls are recorded. So when you ask him certain questions, I might have to rephrase it differently because I can't say certain things on there with him. Okay, Bonita. But yeah, so I will get the questions across, but if they come off a little differently or if I'm using a different name in place of the MM, you understand why. So we're going to try and do that this Wednesday. I appreciate everybody for being on with us early today. I'm trying to get my schedule changed so we could do this every Sunday because I work Sunday nights. So I'll keep everybody notified on that too. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great week. Be safe out there. Stay warm, especially those of you that are here in Colorado. Married Lifers.